Hi, this is John Ferreira, setting up a vintage Fender Stratocaster made in the USA, belonging to Denise. Starting with all the measurements before and then taking all the measurements after. Measuring the string height at the 17th fret, slightly over 70 thousandth of an inch on the low E. On the A, about the same, getting lower with the ratio of the neck, and by the time we get the high E, it's right at 70 thousandth. Plugged it in to check the electronics. Pots are pretty clean, but I'll still spray some deoxit. Same on the switch. There's no buzzing. Looks fine. The frets are pretty dirty though. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but scratch, scratch, scratch. I'll be polishing the frets and make sure that it becomes quieter. Some of the work I am doing is off camera because I like to be precise when I'm tuning, and it takes a long time, so instead of bothering with that, just doing final adjustments. This is playing position. That's pretty good, even with old strings. It's the B, slightly flat. It's pretty good. I like the analog meter because I can see if it's just a hair off to one side or the other. I also have the LEDs, but I like to look at the analog meter. So those old tuners are still useful. That looks good. A little bit flat. Okay, that was alright. Just different measuring. Well, for all strings, there's very little adjusting. Then again, this is just for comparison purposes because I will be putting new strings. In this case, Denise chose Elixir 9-42s, and that's what I'll be doing. On a short note, I'm not being sponsored by anyone. Just giving you extra details. These Elixir are nickel-plated steel OptiWeb. They also make the NanoWeb, which I've tried before. They're bright. Actually, they were really bright compared to the Dadarios that I use normally. And the OptiWeb is supposed to be crisp. And they also have the PolyWeb, which are warm. Well, let's see. They last a long time, but they're quite expensive. So the next thing is strings are going to come out, and I'm going to polish all the frets, and then of course spray some of the electronics and lubricate different points. Before I take out the strings though, I want to make one more measurement. Capo on the first fret. I'm going to press on the last fret on the E string. You have 10,000th of an inch. That's Fender factory spec. And I'm going to see how the 7th fret might be a little tad too high, so I may do a very small adjustment on the truss rod. For the truss rod adjustment, so I'm on this position, less than a quarter of a turn, so I'm just going to put this vertically, like that. That's all it's needed. And now back into the capo and pressing on the last fret, 10,000th gauge on the 7th fret. And indicate, yeah, we're fine now. So now it's per Fender factory spec, 10,000th of neck relief. So now strings will come out, and by the way, the strings have several turns, which it's definitely not needed because these are locking tuners, and the idea is to not have those extra turns that will keep on throwing your guitar out of tune. The idea is to have maybe half to a full turn, maybe a full turn on the lower strings, and maybe 1.5 or so on the higher strings. That's it. So taking a break while I do that and come back. So they came out, and these are all twisted and full of hooks. If you try to bring them through these tiny holes, they're gonna be doing some numbers on the holes. You'll end up filing them over time. So it's good practice to just, now you have straight ends that just come out much easier without grabbing on any surface. One more. That's it. So now I want to take a look at the springs. For those of you who don't know, this has a total of 4 springs. So there are the 2 main ones for the vibrato. There's a third stronger one in the center that goes against the 4th smaller string. I don't know if you can see it, with a set screw. Apparently, not apparently, this will make the vibrato return to a particular position and not stay out of tune. In this case, it does not really matter so much because this bridge is right against the wood, which that's how I like it too. I believe the whole instrument becomes more resonant because of the full contact against the body of the guitar, and there's less of a chance if you have a floating tremolo. I tried the floating tremolo adjustment many times, and you can get it pretty good, but it's always goes off a little bit, sometimes almost not measurable, but it's always there sooner or later. It doesn't matter how much lubrication. I mean, you can get it to an acceptable level, but still, to me, I prefer the steadiness of a bridge on a Strat right on the body. The whole thing resonates, the notes sustain better, in my opinion, in my impression. But this is an interesting, not all Fenders have this, so just thought I'd point that out for those of you who don't know. And on to the new strings and cleaning. I'll take all the all the grim out and then get ready for polishing the frets. Strats are just amazing instruments. On to preparing the neck for polishing. Painter's tape, because it does not leave any residual. And we're going to protect this neck. And I can use these pieces later on. And I'll be back. So the neck is now all ready. Pickups are also covered just in case. And this is a metal polisher called Autosol. I've been using this for many years. I find this gives me really good result. And I have a habit of going 4 frets at a time. And I can feel they're very rough. I don't know if you can see, but the usual metal polisher. And they're getting really shiny, but this is only the first pass. So I have a lot to go, and don't want to bore you with this. So the first pass is already done. You can see all the black gunk that the tape actually protects the neck from. Now my next pass, it's gonna be with a felt polishing and with a Dremel. So I'm going to set this up and be back. Now it's time to put some eye protection, because I do not want a piece of anything to fly into my eye or eyes. Polish or felt or anything. And again, Autosol, and this time I'm going to be doing roughly half of the neck of the guitar at medium speed. So I start slowly first, Otherwise it will be jumping all over the place. And also because it warms up the fret a little bit, so you don't want it to be too hot, so don't overdo on the speed of the Dremel. But these frets are beginning to look really, really good. So after finishing the polish, I went one more time through hand with, without the Dremel, just by hand. And the shine is now incredible. I don't think it really shows in the camera what the shine is like, but these frets are now with the ultimate shine, which makes playability much more enjoyable, especially when you're vibrating a string. It's so much easier, and also you don't hear all that scratching noise from an old green fret. Yeah, just a little clean. Checking out to make sure that the tuners are not loose. Those sometimes have the tendency with time to become loose. So far so good. Excellent. So this guitar looks like it's been well maintained from what I see. So whoever did work on it did an excellent job. So the adjustments were just minor. Truss rod, probably from humidity. And now on to strings. Okay, a little tip on putting strings with locking tuners. String tight through the locking tuner. Turn the locking tuner roughly 10%. Reason why is because there's a bit of a play inside, and if you do it fully straight and then twist it, you're actually twisting the metal of the string inside. So if you twist about 10%, this is what I read and understood and actually agree. Then after it's a little bit on an angle, you can tighten it, and no need to leave any extra anything, because it just simply, it will not escape. Mine is from my Strat is from 1990, and the string never ever escaped, never lost, the tuner never lost the string. And you don't want any extra tips here making you bleed, piercing your fingers. That's it, I'm gonna do all 6. A little tip, I don't know if you can really see. This is a heat shrinking tube, and this is the rest of the E string. So I'm gonna get my heat gun. And I'll be using that to put lubricant inside in the nut without making a mess. That's it. Now putting the plate back on. And I'll just fast forward. Okay, now a close up for the reason to use this tool. As you see, it's an E string, and I have some oil in this container, and it's a very, very tiny little drop that barely goes in the bearing. These Fenders are amazing because they have these little bearings. As you see, it's so thin that you do not make a mess. Even with my left hand, I don't make a mess. That's it. Barely anything to clean. Nothing, basically. Same thing on the bridge. This oil I'm using, in-house mix. It's my own blend. It's got Teflon and some sort of oil that, if you really want to know about it, ask me and I'll tell you. So these are the moving points, friction points for the string. But again, doing that with an E string is perfect because there's no mess. You don't make a mess at all. It's a very, very tiny little drop that goes wherever you point it. And nothing around it gets messy. And now up to intonation. About intonation, sometimes I see people use a support on the neck of the guitar and do the intonation like that. So the string is pretty much in tune, and then they proceed on to do the intonation. But watch what happens. It's in tune. So watch if I just move the location of the towel. Now it's super sharp, yeah, because the weight of the guitar was on top of the neck, so no longer a good measurement. So I never do the intonation like that. I always do it in playing position. Many people know this, some don't, because I see it all the time. Okay, so I do my intonation in completely like in playing position when there's absolutely no pressure on the neck whatsoever. And of course this thing is way sharp now. And now I can a little bit flat. Perfect. A little tilt. So I'm going to do some adjustments and do some more measurements, and then clean pots and switch and jack. Okay, to finish up here, intonation, floating, So let's try that now. Right on. Let's try my hair. There. Okay, let's go a little hair forward on the D. And let's try that again. Should be flat. And it was. There we go. Right on. Perfection. The B needs to come up just a little bit. Let's try that. A little bit more. Perfect. Perfect. Right on. Right on. Okay. That's it. Now for lubrication, cleaning with some deoxit. This D5, it's quite expensive, but that's the best cleaner in the market. Not that I fully can reach these plugs, these pots like that, but that plus some air I can. And that should be it. Now the pickup height was off. A while ago I couldn't tune the E string. It sounded like it had a bad chorus because the pickup was at 2.3 millimeters or so instead of the 3.2 and up that Fender recommends. This is a vintage pickup. This is a lace sensor. The lace sensors, according to Fender, it doesn't matter. You can put it right up to the string because it has 16 magnetic fields. Excuse me, 32. So that's it. No crackling, no scratchy pots. Denise, come pick up your beauty. You're number one. I remember Paris in '49.